In our lives, we will definitely make some wrong decisions. That is inevitable, especially when it comes to romantic relationships. However, some people end up pushing the limits of common sense way too far, particularly certain women who got involved with powerful criminals, paying a steep price for their involvement. And that is exactly what you are going to see here today. So go ahead and leave your like, click below on the subscribe button, and let's get started. Virginia Vallejo Garcia, a Colombian woman, is very well known in the country where she was born, on the 26th of August of 1949. There, she gradually became famous as a journalist, writer, and even a television host. Her professional career was heading toward great heights, but her choice to get involved with one of the most dangerous traffickers in history, Pablo Escobar, from the Medellin cartel, changed her life forever. As a journalist, Virginia interviewed many famous people, but it was her coverage of this criminal that made her even more popular. In 1983, she interviewed Pablo Escobar, and shortly afterward began dating him. The troubled relationship, full of ups and downs, lasted 5 years, during which Escobar became more influential in crime. Living with such a dangerous trafficker came at a high cost. In 2006, for her own safety, Virginia was taken out of Colombia by the authorities of the United States. Despite her poor personal life choices, as a journalist, Virginia triumphed, publishing in 2007 the book Loving Pablo, Hating Escobar, where, in addition to recounting their relationship, she also exposed corrupt politicians. In 2010, the United States government granted Virginia political asylum. Despite the hardships, she continued her career as a writer and columnist, living in the United States ever since. Her relationship cost her even the bond with her own homeland. Adriana Miranda, a young woman only 21 years old from Igarapé Miri in the state of Paraná in Brazil, also known as Drica do Pó, got involved with very shady people and paid the highest price for it. The girl began dealing with trafficking in her city, doing illegal jobs such as transporting substances. In some videos on her social media, Adriana appears quite cheerful, dancing and carelessly enjoying her new life funded by crime. However, in March of 2021, her father began asking for help publicly, stating that his daughter was missing. Shortly afterward, a video of the girl surfaced online in which she pleaded for forgiveness from the person filming, probably a criminal, saying she did not know some man called Didi. That was the last time Adriana was seen alive. Later, what was left of her was found near the place where the video was filmed, proving that crime definitely does not pay. Emma Modesta. Coronel Aispuro, once a beauty queen in her city, had her life turned upside down when she got involved with Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, one of Mexico's most feared drug traffickers. Although she was born in the United States on the 2nd of July of 1989, Emma spent her childhood in Mexico, in the rural surroundings of the village La Angostura. In 2007, Emma entered a beauty contest at the Coffee and Guava Festival, where she met El Chapo. On the same day they first met, Emma and El Chapo agreed to get married. Years later, in February of 2021, Emma was arrested at Dulles Airport in the United States, charged with conspiracy to import and illegally distribute illicit substances, money laundering, and transactions with foreign traffickers. She was also under investigation for helping her husband escape from prison. Emma admitted guilt regarding her trafficking-related crimes during the trial. Initially, she was sentenced to 3 years in prison, but the judge, considering Emma's sincerity in her early marriage, reduced the sentence to 31 months. On the 16th of October of 1960, Sandra Avila Beltran was born. Known as the Queen of the Pacific, she became famous for being one of the biggest leaders of Mexican cartels involved in trafficking. Sandra joined the criminal world very young because of her family, who also dealt with illegal activities. Her uncle, Miguel Angel Felix Gallardo, was also wanted by the police. The Queen of the Pacific was married twice, and both husbands were former police commanders who became traffickers, and both were murdered. Sandra lived a life of luxury, but covered in dangers. In 2002, her teenage son was kidnapped, forcing Sandra to seek help from the police. This incident raised suspicions that led to her arrest in 2007. After years of legal battles, Sandra was extradited to the United States in 2012, where she faced trafficking charges. In 2015, she regained her freedom, drawing a lot of international media attention. However, Sandra's life remained forever marked, with many condemning her for her crimes. Angie Sanclemente, Valencia, a former Colombian beauty queen, went from the catwalks straight into the criminal underworld when she got involved with trafficking. Angie, born on the 25th of May of 1979, decided to participate in a beauty pageant in the year 2000, becoming the winner. However, shortly after, she lost the title when the organization discovered that she was married to a dangerous trafficker, known as El Monstruo. Nevertheless, the girl ended the relationship and founded her own cartel, where she recruited international models to transport drugs abroad. But on the 13th of December of 2009, her criminal operation began to unravel when a 21-year-old young woman was arrested at Ezeiza International Airport in Buenos Aires, carrying a suitcase with 55 kilograms of illicit substances. This arrest led to an investigation resulting in 3 more imprisonments and a capture order for Angie. In March of 2010, Interpol issued an international arrest warrant. And finally, on the 26th of May of 2010, Angie was caught in Buenos Aires. After experiencing violence in prison, Angie Sanclemente Valencia was deported to Colombia, serving only half of her sentence. She was a beautiful woman with everything to be happy, but her involvement with criminals not only ruined her career in the beauty industry, but her entire life as well. Sabrina Duran Montero, a content creator from Chile known as Reina do Narco, the Narco Queen, on her social network had a tumultuous life because of wrong choices, resulting in a fatal end. The young woman already had a criminal life before she became famous on the internet. In 2021, she was arrested for trafficking illicit substances and intercepting stolen vehicles. From then on, she began posting controversial videos online, acting like an ambassador for Chilean crime. Her fame was deeply connected to the crime world. Some videos shared on the internet were even recorded inside prison. Her fame, however, might have attracted the attention of dangerous people. In October of 2023, at 24 years old, Sabrina was murdered while in her car in the city of Santiago. The attack, carried out by at least 2 masked gunmen, ended the young woman's life, leaving behind a small daughter. The news shocked her followers, who paid tribute to the influencer, whose life ended prematurely because of her involvement in crime. Marixa Moreno Carreon, also known as La Vero and La Flaca, got involved with the wrong people and caused great harm to her own life. Surprisingly, Marixa managed to become the leader of the Los Zetas cartel, one of the most infamous and violent groups in Mexico. Marixa took over leadership of the group after the previous leader, Raúl García Rodríguez, El Sureño, was arrested in August of that same year. However, the Mexican army managed to capture her on the 13th of December of 2011 after spotting a stolen vehicle that she was driving. During a routine inspection, officers found weapons and illicit substances inside the car, along with 6 different cell phones. Unfortunately, even after Marixa was captured, Los Zetas remained active, committing atrocities in Mexico to this day, and the former boss faded into obscurity after her name was buried along with her freedom behind bars. Claudia Berenice Ochoa Felix was known in Mexico as the Empress of Los Antrax, but the rest of the world had a more peculiar nickname for her, the Kim Kardashian of crime, due to her resemblance to the celebrity. Unlike her less criminal look-alike, however, Claudia followed a different path, which cost her the ultimate price. She was found dead in the city of Culiacan, with the cause of death being asphyxiation by bronchoaspiration, resulting from excessive use of alcohol and illicit substances. Claudia, who was 35 years old, was a trained nurse and the mother of 3 children. She lived a life that appeared free of wrongdoing, but everything turned upside down when she began posting photos online, posing with firearms and luxury cars. During this time, she earned the title of Empress of the Los Antrax faction, a feared group of hitmen within the Sinaloa cartel. It is said that she took over leadership of Los Antrax after the arrest of El Chino, the previous boss. In 2014, however, she publicly denied such involvement, claiming she was a victim of slander and fake news. The circumstances of her death, however, suggest otherwise. On the night she died, Claudia was partying heavily, even using hard substances excessively. When her companion noticed that she was not breathing, he called for emergency services, who confirmed her death. All of this could have been avoided had she not gotten involved with illegal substances or traffickers. Mixy Padilla, a content creator, appeared in her posts singing and dancing while wearing vests from the Gulf Cartel. She had already gained 11,000 followers on a short video platform, but soon the videos stopped being posted. On the night of the 29th of March of 2020, 3 military vehicles from Sedena, the Mexican National Defense Secretariat, were patrolling the municipality of Miguel Alemán and spotted a pickup truck from the Gulf Cartel carrying 5 gunmen, including the influencer herself. The criminals were moving through an area considered their stronghold, but the soldiers identified armed individuals in the pickup truck and began a chase that ended with the vehicle crashing into a commercial establishment. After the crash, there was an exchange of gunfire, resulting in the deaths of 4 of the 5 people inside the truck, including the influencer, who, despite wearing the same bulletproof vest she showed in her posts, did not survive. Little is known about the life of Guadalupe Fernandez Valencia, but her connection to the Sinaloa cartel briefly made her notorious in a very negative way. Guadalupe, or La Patrona, as she was known in the underworld, spent decades working in the criminal realm. In the earliest documented years, she was associated with trafficking in the United States, where she was arrested and deported back to Mexico. In her home country, Guadalupe began working directly with Jesus Alfredo, one of the sons of the feared El Chapo, within the Sinaloa cartel. While working for the Sinaloa cartel, Guadalupe wound up getting involved in trafficking. When El Chapo was arrested in 2016, she was also indicted, pleading guilty to the charges. Even at 61 years old, she was sentenced to 10 years in prison, where she remains to this day. Maria Guadalupe Lopez Esquivel, a true crime muse, earned the nickname La Catrina, which literally translates to a person of excellent aesthetic taste. La Catrina is also the name of a spirit that appears during the Day of the Dead, something that ties in with Esquivel since she worked as a hit woman for the CJNG, one of the most dangerous cartels in Mexico. Esquivel performed all of the CJNG's dirty work, such as kidnappings, extortion, and other terrible crimes that cannot even be mentioned here. Her evil career, however, came to an end in December of 2020, when the authorities received anonymous tips pointing to her hideout. Armed forces headed to the reported location, and after confirming the presence of CJNG members, they engaged in a confrontation, with shots exchanged, resulting in Esquivel's death, as well as the detention of 6 other wanted criminals. Even though Maria Guadalupe Lopez Esquivel escaped paying for her crimes behind bars, she received a harsh punishment for her cruelty, paying with her own life for her bloody sins. The famous godmother of the Medellin cartel, Griselda Blanco Restrepo, wrote her story with violence and trafficking, leaving hundreds of victims behind. Born in Colombia on the 15th of February of 1943, Griselda got involved in crime from a very young age. Even before she was 13, she had already kidnapped and robbed. But things got worse when she started dealing in trafficking, creating vital transportation routes for Colombian cartels. But her crime-fueled wealth came at a huge price. Her 2 husbands were murdered, and some of her children also died, while others ended up in prison. Her criminal career, however, came to an end in 1985, when Griselda was finally arrested and sentenced to 15 years in prison, solely for trafficking. She should have been accused and convicted of many other crimes, but she managed to escape through legal loopholes. Nevertheless, she could not escape her own death. In 2012, she was killed in the city of Medellin, the very place where her reign of terror was most devastating. The boss, or La Jefa, as Enedina Arellano Felix was called in her native language, began her life with simple aspirations, such as becoming the carnival queen of her town. However, everything changed when her brothers, Ramon and Benjamin, became targets of the Mexican authorities. When she was younger, Enedina studied accounting in Guadalajara, but soon she began working in her family's illicit business. At first, she stayed in the background, helping with finances and money laundering. She remained in that role for nearly 20 years, without being discovered, but when her brother Eduardo Arellano Felix was arrested in 2008, she took over the leadership of the Tijuana cartel. Since then, Enedina has been in charge of the cartel up to the present day. Her leadership style uses more business-like approaches, seeking more dialogue and partnerships than violence. Although she has not yet been captured, many of Enedina's relatives were lost, either killed or incarcerated. Enedina is also one of the few people in the world to be placed under a special law in the United States that allows the government to treat her as a criminal without Interpol's help. The net has been tightening around Enedina Arellano Felix, who by now may well regret entering the criminal world. In Guatemala, Dona Tana is an infamous name in criminal history, surrounded by controversy and tragedy. Sebastiana Hortensia Cotton Vasquez, Dona Tana, was born into a poor family in the city of Malacatan, near the border of Guatemala and Mexico. From a young age, Vasquez faced many challenges, such as domestic violence from her first husband. She even had to drop out of school to work and care for her children. Her past and her hardships, however, do not justify the wrong choices she made by getting involved with traffickers. Vasquez worked for a powerful trafficker in the country known as Juan Chamale and gradually rose through the ranks in the criminal world. In October of 2014, however, Vasquez was arrested by Mexican authorities and deported to Guatemala, where she was charged with trafficking-related crimes. In an attempt to reduce her sentence, she informed on many of her former associates. Nevertheless, she remains in prison to this day, fearing the retaliation she might face when she gets out. Known as the Queen of Naples, Maria Licciardi stood out among the criminals of the Camorra, the famous Italian mafia. Born on the 24th of March of 1951, Maria grew up in a family of gangsters and mafiosi. In such families, participating in crime is not necessarily mandatory for everyone, especially for female relatives. But Maria had different plans. She took the helm of the Licciardi clan as soon as she had the chance when one of her brothers was arrested. As the boss, she earned recognition from the Camorra's leaders, expanding the clan's activities to include trafficking, extortion, and recruiting girls for clandestine activities. Maria Licciardi's ambition, however, was her own undoing. In one criminal operation, she distributed large amounts of a very dangerous illicit substance, ignoring the risk to people's health. Her scheme caused many victims, with people even dying in the streets. The police did not let it slide, pressuring the Camorra to limit the damage. In the end, several members of the Licciardi clan were arrested, including Maria herself. With so many members in prison, the clan could no longer stand, and it collapsed as a criminal faction. Maria Licciardi was first arrested on the 14th of June of 2001, but since then, she has been in and out of prison multiple times. However, since her last recapture in 2021, she has remained behind bars, regretting the bad choices she made by mixing her family's business with trafficking. Marixa Lemus, together with her sister Mayra, are two of the most infamous names in the criminal history of Guatemala and Central America. Marixa's unbelievable escapes from prison are compared even to those of the feared El Chapo. Considered one of the most dangerous traffickers in Guatemala, Marixa was captured in 2014 for crimes such as kidnapping and murder. In May of 2016, however, she made her first attempt at escape, receiving help from other inmates who opened a hole in the wall for her to flee. Although she was recaptured hours later, in May of 2017, she tried again, disguising herself in a guard's uniform and managed to get away. Two weeks after her successful escape, she was found in the country of El Salvador and recaptured. She remains in prison to this day in solitary confinement to reduce her chances of escaping once more. Do not forget to subscribe so you can watch more videos like this.